This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things, questions, and markets related to Bitcoin. Little b for the currency and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation. All Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. And let's take a live look at Bitcoin right now. Taking a look at the CoinDesk XBX index. It's currently trading at $46,466. Bitcoin is up about 4% over the past 24 hours.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Taking a look at the chart. Taking a look at the chart of the day. All right, this chart showing the impact a lie can have on Bitcoin price. A fake news release Monday announcing a bogus partnership between Walmart and Litecoin coincided with a spike in BTC's price. Litecoin is a fork of Bitcoin, of course. Walmart stating it had, quote, no knowledge of the press release issued by Global Newswire, and it is incorrect. The spike also coincided with business software firm MicroStrategy announcing it purchased an additional 5,050 BTC. The company now holds about 114,000 BTC altogether. Bitcoin continues to consolidate above the $42,000 support level as short-term improves. Buyers are returning, although upside appears to be limited toward the $48,000 to $50,000 resistance level over the short term. Consumer prices in August rose about 5.3% from a year ago. And according to the Labor Department, and a reading over 5% is high, though that came in lower than expected still. As of now, Bitcoin investors don't seem to be too worried about the possibility of the U.S. CPI boosting the odds of the so-called Fed taper, that is, a possible unwinding of the Fed's long-running liquidity-boosting stimulus program by the end of the year. All right, joining us now to discuss Bitcoin and more news headlines hitting the wires is FTX US CEO Brett Harrison. Welcome to the show, Brett. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Person.
Yes.
All right. Well, taking a look at Bitcoin, people did notice large sums of Bitcoin moving on FTX US the other day, and there were a lot of questions about what that was all about.
Sure. So the great thing about Bitcoin, obviously, is that people can track all the transactions that are happening on the blockchain. Of course, that comes with the peril of people seeing what's going on and making assumptions about what the activity is. So in this case, they saw a large amount of Bitcoin being moved out of an FTX wallet. And that was just a standard reconsolidation of wallets that happens on FTX periodically to improve performance. There are these things called UTXOs, or unspent transaction outputs, resulting from lots of small and large deposits that occur within FTX. And occasionally, to improve performance, we'll do a consolidation of all those wallet amounts together. And that's what people saw. And there was some, very unsubstantiated rumors about hacking. None of that occurred.
Well, speaking of cryptocurrencies moving, we are seeing the Solana network down. Is that impacting any trading going on at FTX?
So it does impact, the ability to do blockchain transactions, for example, withdrawals, deposits for Sol right now while they're having issues. But it doesn't actually impact the trading of the Solana order book on FTX or FTX US.
Okay, and why is that? Because
once coins are on the exchange itself, all the on-exchange operations are happening on the centralized platform. They're not blockchain transactions.
Right. Also, we saw a boost in Litecoin the other day, as well as Bitcoin, because of this fake Walmart news release. When things like that happen in traditional markets, there may be some circuit breaker. Obviously, we don't have that in the crypto markets, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's tough. When you have a market like the cryptocurrency markets, which are definitely in the maturing phase. They're not, as well developed as the equity markets are. You're going to see things like this happen, and they're unfortunate. These sort of fake news stories that cause, manipulation in prices. And, we do hope that over time there's more, regulatory clarity for the exchanges to help enforce certain kinds of rules that would prevent these kinds of things, but also have the ability for, enforcement action to be taken against, perpetrators of things like fake news that are causing these kinds of price movements.
Right. So Gary Gensler making some remarks before the Senate Banking Committee today, saying that it is, in all likelihood, trading platforms in crypto are trading securities and should register with the SEC. Something you agree with?
What I do agree with is that there should be regulation on the federal level for spot cryptocurrency exchanges. Exactly where that jurisdiction is going to lie between the SEC and the CFTC, we're going to see. I read Gensler's comments this morning, and it did seem like the chairman was willing to discuss the possibility of the CFTC and the SEC working together in some sort of joint jurisdiction capacity to figure out, how do you regulate a spot cryptocurrency exchange where some tokens might be securities, some tokens might be considered more like commodities under the CFTC regime. It's going to be interesting to see, but we're looking forward to a lot of the regulatory clarity we're hoping for coming out of the SEC and Chairman Gensler and the CFTC and Chairman Benham.
And is FTX in conversations with the SEC or the Treasury Department about regulation going forward in the sector?
We're absolutely in conversation with the CFTC and the SEC, talking with the staff, in constant dialogue, both about our current exchange and also our future plans. We think that is the only way for long-term exchange like ours to really exist, is for us to work cooperatively with them and collaboratively with them to figure out the next steps.
Any insight into what those conversations are like, whether or not your positions on how the industry should move forward?
The main insight I'll give is that I think that it's a misconception that either agency wants to stifle innovation. I think they recognize this is an important technology. It's here to stay. The asset class is a multi-trillion-dollar asset class. It's here to stay. They want it to exist, but they want it to be fair and orderly, and they want it to be regulated, and we support that.
Okay. And what can you say about your partnership, or your acquisition of LedgerX?
Sure. So we recently announced that we're acquiring LedgerX. LedgerX is a CFTC-regulated futures exchange, derivatives exchange, and clearinghouse. And so the goal here is that we would love to be able to offer derivatives through the FTX US platform to US customers, both institutions and retail. And through the licenses, the DCM, CEF, and DCO licenses offered by LedgerX, in collaboration with them, we're going to be able to eventually, and again, all pending discussions with the CFTC, be able to offer these products like BTC and ETH futures and options to our customer base.
Mm-hmm. And how do you differentiate yourselves, I suppose, with FTX versus FTX US?
Sure. So although they're ultimately, majority owned by Sam Bankman-Fried, they're run as two separate companies with some shared technology. But FTX US runs entirely in the US, US personnel, US servers, US machines. We have completely separate order book liquidity, and we need to for regulatory reasons. That's why right now FTX US is just a spot cryptocurrency exchange, and more recently an NFT platform. But we're looking to offer derivatives the only way we know that we can, which is by operating underneath the CFTC regulatory regime.
And FTX, of course, has raised a ton of money, $900 million,
Sure.
an $18 billion valuation. And I see a lot of that going into the marketing. We've got Steph Curry, Tom Brady,
Yep.
Also Kevin O'Leary, who we just spoke to earlier. So tell me about this marketing push and what you're hoping to see the fruits of your labor in that regard.
So as you know, FTX US is a pretty young exchange. We're only about a year old. And you think about us competing against some of the major incumbents in this space, like Coinbase and Kraken, who have nearly a decade of experience. It's an uphill battle to do customer acquisition. And what we wanted to do is get our names out there to tens of millions of users in a quick way. And one way to do that, rather than doing the sort of traditional method of going out and buying Google ads or Facebook ads, is what's something that everyone in the country watches or knows about? Well, how about Major League Baseball? How about the NFL? How about Kevin O'Leary? And so it's through these partnerships that we're able to sort of show people that we are a reliable, compliant, safe brand for people to trust their money with, and the MLB agrees. Tom Brady agrees, Steph Curry agrees.
Corresponding with that marketing
push? Yeah, we definitely
push?
are seeing a growth of active users, of general brand awareness, of search hits, and so it's definitely working. But we also like to work with these partners in a lot of our charitable initiatives as well, especially with Steph and Aisha Curry. So it's a very exciting time to be with these partnerships.
It's exciting to see you guys grow, and looking forward to seeing your development and ever-growing expansion. All right, Brett, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was Brett Harrison, CEO of FTX US. All right, also, earlier I also had the chance to speak with Andrew Smith-Lewis, as well as Case, who is the Case Chief Innovation Officer, as well as someone everyone knows, Mike Novogratz, CEO of Galaxy Digital. I had a chance to speak to them about investing in crypto assets and getting institutional investors involved, company earnings at Galaxy, as well as Novogratz's outlook on Bitcoin. Have a listen.
Start off with the $64,000 question.
Yes.
Like this is, listen, predicting markets is always difficult. What I would tell you is, in the last few months, we've seen an unbelievable mindset shift where people thought about crypto as just Bitcoin until a few months ago. Bitcoin has a great asset to protect against the debasement of fiat currency, right? We've got profligate spending by central banks and finance ministries all over the world, and so people were buying Bitcoin as an inflation hedge. The rest of crypto they didn't really understand so well, and now I think the whole world understands that Web3, right, the Internet of Value Exchange, is a real thing and it's coming. And so you've seen this huge shift in some of the other coins. I think collectively, it's a big stamp that says, hey, this crypto revolution is real, it's here for good, it's an institutional asset class, and money's going to keep going in. And so, listen, Bitcoin's...
End of year price target?
So Bitcoin's 45,000. I think it could finish the year over the all-time highs at 60. And I think, you know, in 3 to 4 years, it could be 500,000.
Okay.
That 500,000 gets it to around where gold is.
Okay, but, and while at the same time, there are folks who are buying the dip. Michael Saylor has been scooping up more Bitcoin, putting them into his reserves on MicroStrategy. Do you have any update on Bitcoin reserves at Galaxy Digital?
Well, we're a public company. We'll put our earnings out, you know, after the third quarter. We have Bitcoins, Ethereum, lots of other coins. We have lots of venture investments on our balance sheet. We have mining, and so we've got a big balance sheet. Which
are you buying in this quarter?
We're buying non-stop. I shouldn't say non-stop, but we're always buying, right? We're taking profits, we're reinvesting, and so we like the market.
ABC.
ABC.
And speaking of which, you have a partnership with Andrew, and maybe Andrew, you can explain what that entails.
Sure, we're an alternative investment platform, Case, and we've partnered with Mike and with Galaxy for distribution. So we help the independent channel get access to great funds. Also, my focus is on giving people a little bit of the confidence that Mike has. So helping advisors speak with confidence and conviction about alts is a re-education process, and that's what my focus is. And we've partnered a lot on creating great content for the market to help educate them.
They can start by wearing good jackets.
Obviously, right? Obviously. I could see all these advisors wearing, we'll start a fashion revolution for financial advisors.
And what was interesting was I saw that part of this is that there needs to be a re-education of the chartered financial analyst, traditional finance education, or the RIA education.
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, crypto in a way is like the alternative investment, and I think for it to really go mainstream, especially in wealth management with traditional advisors, we need a modern new approach to education. And it's not just about dissemination of information, it's about helping people acquire usable knowledge, and that's what's really key. And we can use technology to do that. Fortunately, the technology exists, and this is a great moment in time to do that.
Okay. So in your conversations with the hedge funds, the institutional investors here at this conference, how are those conversations going? Are they warming up to crypto? Are they, or what? There's
a gigantic institutional awakening that you can't miss Web 3.0. You can't miss the next internet. And so every single investor I speak to, from pension funds to hedge funds to family offices, realize there's an urgency to understand what's happening. They need chips on the board. And so you're seeing lots of money pour into any crypto venture fund that's being raised is raising lots of money right now because people are short this asset class.
What products are you advising for exposure?
Listen, we love when people buy our stock because Galaxy stock is a proxy for the whole crypto space, right? We have venture, we have businesses, we have Bitcoin and Ethereum and Luna and Solana and all the other what we think are important ecosystem coins. We love people putting money in venture. We just raised a $325 million venture fund specifically targeting the metaverse. right?
Oh, okay.
The digital world, right? Which is collapsing or colliding with crypto at an accelerating pace. And so I haven't been more excited about the opportunity set. And I think, my excitement, my energy is coming from the fact that everyone I talk to wants to get in the space.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain coins on your radar here? We're seeing Solana skyrocket, Algorand.
Yeah, so listen.
I know you're not a fan of Cardano.
Well, there are two things that are happening at the same time. This idea that Web3, like what does Web3 mean? Web3 means that you can use this blockchain-based base layer of trust. Everyone thinks it's probably going to be Ethereum, but Ethereum is still slow. It's slow because it's really decentralized. And so ecosystems like Solana, which are Ethereum competitors, are far less decentralized, right? But much, much faster. Mm-hmm. And so, like in the NFL, speed kills, right? Speed wins. And right now, there's lots of people saying, hey, I'll give up some safety and security and decentralization to get my product working faster. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a debate that goes on for long periods of time. And so the platforms where lots of developers are working, where there's great user activity, mm-hmm. We're investing in those. Okay. There's a second story going on that's fascinating to me, and it's that people using crypto or using new assets as identity and paying for identity. I would say Cardano is an identity token, right? That it's not used by a lot of people. None of the developers that we talk to are building on it. None of the funds I know are investing in it, but it's got a gigantic market cap and it's got a very passionate community of people that almost wear it on their sleeve. And it's the same thing we're seeing with GameStop and AMC and quite frankly, anti-vaxxers. This is identity. It's not that they really care about the vaccine as much, it's their identity. Mm-hmm. And we've now monetized identity. And it's fascinating because there's a resilience to that. I'm shocked how long GameStop's kept up its valuation. The valuation makes no sense to any equity investor in all time, but as an identity token or identity stock, it's making sense. And so they're kind of two separate stories going at the same time, which I find fascinating. It's
certainly a millennial phenomenon. But Andrew, when you're looking at our RIAs, what kind of allocations are you recommending to get exposure into crypto? And I don't think older generations care about identity so much.
Well, they should. Okay. Actually, but I don't make recommendations. So, and we're agnostic to that.
Well, allocations even.
Even allocations. What we're really focused on is empowering advisors to have that knowledge to be able to make an informed decision for their client. And so, you listen to Mike speak about all this, and the first principle is sort of understanding a bit about how the blockchain works. And I think that people don't really appreciate that at scale. And so our thing is about how do we drive that sort of factual information in a way that people can really understand it, and then they can listen to people like Mike and other experts in the field and figure out what are the right allocations for their clients based upon their own risk tolerance and their views of the future.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that's absolutely super crystal clear to me is zero is not the right allocation. Okay. And so every single investor has to get off zero because it's just not the right allocation. Right? The total crypto market cap is about $2.5 trillion. I think global wealth is 450 billion, or probably higher, trillion, probably even higher. So crypto market cap is still less than 0.5% of global wealth. Like, you'd be crazy looking around the world. You don't have to be a great prognosticator not to think that that's significantly higher in a few years. That or something really wacko's happened. And so you got to get off zero. And if there's one message I want to get people, it's like, get involved. Start by buying Bitcoin, Ethereum if you want to. Buy our stock. Listen to your financial advisor. But once you're in, you start paying attention. Yeah. That's the way that the brain works.
So speaking of Galaxy, in the first quarter, 860 million net profit. Second quarter, 176 million net loss. Any preview
to the
third quarter?
Listen, if you look at the prices of a basket of coins, our profitability is still somewhat correlated to how the market's doing, and the market's had a pretty great third quarter, and so you would guess that our third quarter is a lot better than our second quarter. without giving any hidden inside information. So the activities we've seen in every one of our businesses are awesome. And I can't imagine that doesn't continue into the fourth quarter. There is so much momentum in the space right now.
Maybe some comment on the ETFs and the volumes you've been seeing there?
ETF volumes are picking up. We don't have a US ETF yet.
Do you see that happening?
I think you'll get one in either the fourth quarter or the first quarter.
Oh, okay.
Again, I don't know it grand insight. Where we've applied, we're in the queue.
Okay.
But
are you in talks with regulators?
We talk with regulators a bunch, either directly or through industry association groups. I think there's a gigantic opportunity for the crypto community to educate regulators, to work with regulators, to work with politicians. We fell shy in that in the last 5 years, right? Politicians are literally in first grade right now.
Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong would disagree. He would say that they've been trying to speak to regulators, specifically the SEC, and they've been having trouble in that regard.
I read Brian's comments and I thought they were fascinating. When I was saying this broadly, I was saying the crypto community didn't do a good enough job educating DC. And so politicians are making decisions on things they have no idea about that are really important. And so we need to double our efforts, and we are at Galaxy, talking to people in DC, making sure they understand what's at stake, that this is a technology play, that this is not crazy speculation. I mean, it drives me freaking crazy that Elizabeth Warren, who's a very bright woman, is constantly out bashing crypto when crypto is a progressive movement at its core.
She's into stable coins,
and it's a technology, and it's a technology movement. We are building a base layer of trust for the next generation of the internet of value transfer. And you'd be crazy as a politician, crazy as a regulator, not to want that to have a lot of U.S. footing.
Right. Yeah. Just correct. She's into new central bank digital currencies, rather. So government-run stablecoins. But nevertheless, there are jurisdictions, other countries that want to be much more friendly regulatory-wise, such as El Salvador, which also recently one of the advisors to the president mentioned that he doesn't want to tax crypto profits. And, there are more inviting jurisdictions. Met with that, do you think that will prove to be very competitive against the United States?
Listen, the U.S., Europe have giant economies, big regulatory regimes. We have to get them right. This is where it needs to be done right, or the whole space is going to slow down. Listen, there are places like Bermuda that are really crypto forward. Singapore's really crypto forward, and lots of companies will set up there and innovation will happen there. But if we don't get the regulation right in the U.S. and in Europe, this whole movement's going to be much, much slower.
That being said, what do you think about, the Bitcoin law in El Salvador, Ukraine possibly?
Listen, I think it's fascinating. Bitcoiners
they had a lot of glitches, protests.
Bitcoiners are split. One of the things that a lot of Bitcoiners, as I said, it's progressive on one side, it's libertarian on the other. A lot want freedom, and so to be told you have to accept is kind of counterintuitive to Bitcoin. But listen, El Salvador's a dollarized economy. 20% of their GDP is from remittances, right? From El Salvadorians working overseas, sending money back. Right now, it costs a shitload to send money back from any country to a home country. And Bitcoin and other crypto ecosystems make that really, really cheap. When I was a kid, it used to cost $3 to call Germany. Now it's free. The same thing is going to happen with transfer of money around the world, transfer of value. That's the genius of the blockchain.
And finally, I've got to wrap, but just my favorite question is, do you think that Bitcoin could eventually be the reserve currency of the world?
There's a shot. Listen, I don't, in some ways, want it to be, which is counterintuitive, right? I spent my whole life in Bitcoin. In that, I would love the U.S. policymakers to do such a good job that they rebuild confidence in the dollar, right? That the deficits go from 14% back to zero, we're at a surplus, that our tax base grows, that we put ourselves on stable footing. That doesn't look that possible. So people are buying Bitcoin as a hedge against that, as most bet is that we're going to have a slow depreciation of the dollar. Not Venezuela, not Nigeria, but we're going to have a debasement of 4 or 5, 6% a year. And all of a sudden, after 4 years, like you said, I've lost 20% of my value. And so I own a lot of Bitcoin because my base case is it's going to be really hard for U.S. policymakers to get it right, to land the plane. Right? We have a social division in our country, and so you've got Democrats now wanting to spend lots of money because we have a rich-poor gap that's a mile wide. We have very little fiscal profligacy, and we have so much debt that it seems the only way out of this is to monetize it. And that's the most likely path, and that's why you want to own hard assets like Bitcoin. I don't want us to become Venezuela. Like, we'll have breakdown of civil society, we'll have wars, we'll have death. And so if I had my wishes, you know, Yellen and Powell would be magical, and the economy would grow, and rates would normalize, and Bitcoin would be less important. I just don't think that's going to happen, so I think Bitcoin's going to be really important.
All right, that was Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz, as well as Case Chief Innovation Officer Andrew Smith-Lewis. And that's it for All About Bitcoin right here at the SALT Conference. I'm your host, Christine Lee. We'll be back live at 9 a.m. tomorrow, where we'll have more big movers and shakers to have Algorand COO Sean Ford, as well as Brett Tejpal, Head of Institutional Sales at Coinbase, right here live at the SALT Conference all week long. You're watching CoinDesk TV. Be sure to join us tomorrow morning.